Hi everyone, I'm Joanna Quilty, CEO of the New South Wales Council of Social Service. If I could first start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which this interview is taking place. I'm on Gadigal land of the Eora Nation and I pay respects to elders past, present and future. I'm really pleased to be joined today by Rowan Laxmanalal, who's standing as a candidate for the Animal Justice Party in the upcoming by-election for the electorate of Strathfield. Welcome, Rowan. It's great to have you here and let's get straight into it. So clearly, housing costs in an electorate like Strathfield are skyrocketing. We know that homelessness is on the rise. Our homelessness services can't meet demand and there's just not enough social housing. What are your party's plans to address this pretty dire situation?
Sure. While we may not have any strict policies in place regarding that, we do have a chapter on mental health and something that we do consider quite seriously. Obviously, stemming from that, affordable housing is very important and something that needs to be dealt with. I guess the challenge there is, having a good understanding as to what's available and perhaps also having a better understanding as to what could be available in the future. And so, as part of engaging, it'd be very important to engage with the various departments and stakeholders to actually make sure that we can achieve available and affordable housing for those who need it in the area.
During COVID, the social services sector has really stepped it up to support the most vulnerable in our communities and keep them safe. But it's absolutely stretched to capacity and having real trouble when it comes to recruiting and retaining staff, largely because of poor paying conditions. So how will you and your party champion the work of the sector, including local First Nations organisations, and ensure that it gets the resources and recognition that's required?
Sure. Again, I think it's about understanding what the challenges are and perhaps why we got to that stage. I think it's also important to see how those challenges were also tackled in other states and perhaps even other countries, because obviously those industries need workers to be working, and it's very important that we actually come up with a solution so that they can do that.
You'd be really aware that women continue to suffer greater impacts from COVID, including increased caring responsibilities, greater job loss, and also impacts arising from domestic violence. So what will you and the Animal Justice Party do to advocate for better support to women and children in the electorate, and also to address those issues to do with rising domestic violence?
Sure. I think at the moment, certainly more time and money could be spent in that space. It seems to what has been an ongoing issue for many, many years. And so I think we have to understand, what's being done with the money at the moment. Can we do better with that money? But also perhaps is there capacity to invest more time and money in that space? Because it has been an issue and it's quite frustrating, actually, when you look at the statistics. It's quite sickening. And unfortunately, with the pandemic that we've been in, that's kind of blown out, as we all know. So, certainly better management of things done currently, but can we do more to support them?
So somewhat surprisingly, there's quite a large proportion of children growing up in poverty in the Strathfield electorate. And we know that this places them at much greater risk of abuse, neglect and poor educational outcomes. What are your policies to support parents and promote children's wellbeing?
Sure. It's a matter of trying to understand, what issues they're facing, be it financial, be it educational. I think having a view for the long term is most important. So I'd certainly prioritise education so that that young individual has an opportunity to, while they face struggles and challenges at the moment, can we actually put things in place for them to have better outcomes in the future? So I think certainly, yes, financial side of things is important, but certainly the education side of things, so they can go on and go on to do good things in the future.
Fantastic. I'm now going to talk about emergency responses, and we have had quite a few emergencies of late. Research tells us that top-down emergency responses can suffer from lack of local knowledge, either too much too soon or too little too late. What do you think are the key issues in developing disaster preparedness and emergency response systems that actually work?
Sure. I think it'd be very good to actually look at what other countries and states have done regarding this. It's something that personally I'm not too well versed in, but again, it's all about engaging with experts and trying to learn from cases in the past which have worked really well, but also cases in the past which haven't worked very well.
So staying on the theme of emergencies, we're certainly seeing more and more natural disasters, including the current pandemic, but also floods, bushfires and droughts, all of which have greater impacts for rural areas, for disadvantaged groups in the community and for the health of our communities. What do you think needs to happen to ensure that our local health systems in particular are robust enough to cope with these occurrences?
Sure. Yeah, I think at the moment, while things are put in place, it'd be very good to actually understand what's working well and what isn't working well and see if there's room for improvement there. I think there also needs to be an eye on preventative measures as well. While, obviously fixing and dealing with the disaster at hand is very important, we do need to look at ways of preventing such catastrophes from happening. I know that the Animal Justice Party are sort of the only political party in Australia rather that's dealing with one of the leading causes of climate catastrophe, and that's animal agriculture. I sort of won't go into too much detail there, but essentially experts all around the world, including the United Nations, have urged that it's very important for us to move to a more plant-based diet to prevent these kind of catastrophes from happening in the future. And so there's obviously a lot of work there that can be done in terms of giving the community that awareness, but also the education to actually get to that stage.
Look, that brings us to the end of our interview. We've canvassed a really broad range of issues there, and I think you've helped us better understand where the Animal Justice Party sits on some of these. So thank you very much for your time, and we wish you all the best in the upcoming by-election.
Thanks so much for your time, Joanne. I really appreciate it.